Welcome today to the Black Hillbillies channel. Today our meal is going to be the Family Feud meatloaf. And the reason why I call it the Family Feud meatloaf is because it's so damn good. By the time you get to the last piece, your family's going to be fighting over that last piece. So anyway, let's go over the ingredients of what I put in the meatloaf. And I first of all like to explain to you that I do use two different types of meat. I use 1 pound of pork and 1 pound of ground beef. Now, if you're allergic to pork or you just don't eat pork, you can exchange it out and put another pound of ground beef, or you can use turkey. I just find that the turkey's a little bit drier than pork, but it just gives it a really good flavor. So I usually use just two different types of meat. Then we look over our ingredients over here. I use a can of the Hunt's meatloaf. And I also use a packet of the McCormick meatloaf. I use two medium eggs, a half a cup of onions, and a half a cup of breadcrumbs. So first, what I'm going to go ahead and do is get my onions sauteed. So we'll go ahead and get that started. Now at this point I'm sauteing my onions. The reason why I like to saute onions is to get them real soft, and you want to saute them to the point to where they get kind of translucent to almost a light brown color. I don't like to put my onions in there raw. I mean, you can put them in there uncooked, but it just is a much better flavor when you have them cooked, and also it's a lot softer. Okay, I've went ahead and sauteed my onions. So as you can see here in the bowl, I've went ahead and put my hamburger and my pork meat. So right now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and put in my half a cup of breadcrumbs. And I'm going to go ahead and put only a half a can of the Hunt's meatloaf in here. So I'm just going to mix about half of this bowl. And we'll save the remainder of this meatloaf mix for the top. So that'll be our topping at the end. I'm going to go ahead and open up this meatloaf packet. Right, next what I'm going to go ahead and do is put in my eggs. And I'm going to go ahead and mix this up by hand. And this meatloaf will be really, really tasty. It'll be very flavorful. It'll be packed with flavors, and that's what I like. I can't stand having a dry meatloaf that don't have no flavor. You know, it's just like a big block of wood, and it just don't have no flavor. I've ate at some people's houses, and their meatloaf just ain't no good, and I don't like that. I feel like if I'm going to eat this many calories, it might as well taste good. So I went ahead and got my stove on 375 degrees. And what you're going to want to do is to bake this for a full hour. Now, depending on the temperature of your stove, you might need to set it a little bit higher, maybe even up to 400. But it's usually between 375 and 400 degrees. Now, I want to mix this up. I want to make sure that all the flavors and the seasoning and the onions get mixed well with this. Now sometimes what I'll do is I'll even add some Rotel chilies in here, and that tastes delicious to go along with it. Just depends on what your taste buds are. If you like it a little spicy, or if you like it just a little bit with a little Southwest flavor, that really kicks it up, makes it taste really good. But today we're just going to kind of stick with what we got here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven, and it'll be in there for about an hour. Okay, so the meatloaf has been baking for an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and pour the remainder of the meatloaf sauce that we had in the can earlier. So I'm just going to pour that on top of it, and it just makes just a really good sauce layer on top of the meatloaf. So I'm gonna spread it out, make sure it's good and even all over. And you don't have to put the rest of the sauce. If you don't like the taste of it, or if you don't like it, you don't have to put that on there. It's just a little extra added bonus on it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is put this back in the oven and let this sit for about 10 minutes. Uh-oh, I got my thing on there, but that's okay. So I'm going to let this sit for about 10 minutes and bake at 10 minutes. The meatloaf baked an additional 10 minutes, so the total time is about an hour and 10 minutes, so it's about 70 minutes worth of cooking time. But anyway, it's ready, and you may want to let it cool down a good 15 to 20 minutes before you slice it. But I hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for tuning in today to the Black Hillbillies.